every time I take the camera out, I feel like I find something special, it seems like, and something I love to look back on. I keep, a few photo books of some of my favorite shots, and it's cool to go reflect on that. You can work with some pretty big brands with, a few hundred followers. You don't really need any audience.
Today's guest is an Outdoor Creator Academy student and an ultra-talented outdoor photographer and videographer from Montana. And man, I was actually just looking at your profile again before we started, and people seriously need to go follow your Instagram, which is @DrewBakerPhoto, and check it out for yourself, especially if you're into outdoors and kind of the hunting and wildlife photography. I think you do such a good job with that. So, but yeah, let's welcome Drew Baker to the podcast. How's it going, man?
Good. Thank you for the kind words. My name's Drew Baker. I'm from Southwest Montana here. I am a fly fishing guide by trade. And then over the last, 6-7 years, I fell in love with the camera, and it just really complements the guiding. And just anything I can do to play outside, that's kind of been my cup of tea and how I've structured my life. And yeah, I'm in the perfect spot for it. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah. Drew is one of our, for me, just like one of the best students we've had. I mean, we've been doing some partnerships with brands, and Drew's freaking gets it done right away. He labels the photos of the videos when we're dropping them into Drive, and I mean, just goes above and beyond. So he's an exceptional guy. Now you touched on fly fishing as you're a guide, or a fly fishing guide, which I actually guess I didn't really know. But you also said that videography and photography is a complement to that. And a lot of people, I feel like, always have a concern that videoing or taking photos during a trip or something is going to ruin that time. What would you say to those people? Like, how has it enhanced your time, or what does that look like for you, I guess?
I guess it can go both ways. There's definitely, trips in general, or moments in a trip where it's good to put down the camera and kind of soak in the moment, whether that, be Northern Lights or a post-harvest hunting situation where you really just need to put the camera down and soak it up. But for me, it's really opened my eyes to little things I used to take for granted, especially, on the rivers or in the mountains.
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of see a lot of things through a different light. No pun intended with photography or anything, but you definitely take notice of, that craggy cliff that you probably would have walked by 10 times that you never noticed, or, the wildflowers that you never stopped to really pay attention, or the bees, or, it really helps you kind of analyze and just see things through different eyes. I think it adds to my personal experience for sure.
Man, that's exactly how I explain it to people too. It can be kind of a pain in the ass sometimes, but overall, especially when you're looking back on photos and videos, man, it's so cool. And then things that people just walk past, you are sitting there and capturing that moment to rewatch again in the future because it was cool, like some flowers or whatever, craggy cliffs, exactly like you were saying. Is there anything that, we're kind of going off script to the questions here, but this is a really interesting topic. Is there anything that sticks out to you as a particularly memorable moment that you might have captured on a photo or video for you?
We could sit here and talk for the next week over that type of stuff. I've been fortunate that my cameras take me to a lot of really cool places around the world, and just, getting caught in like a rainstorm in the Yukon when you're, a few hundred miles from the closest little town, or
damn,
you're 14 miles back on horses, and just the content that I've been able to capture in situations like that, or gosh, all over the place. Every time I take the camera out, I feel like I find something special, it seems like, and something I love to look back on. I keep, a few photo books of some of my favorite shots, and it's cool to go reflect on that.
Mm.
especially when I'm feeling stagnant in my creative journey. It's nice to revisit a lot of that stuff and just be like, I took that badass photo. and
Yeah.
yeah, it just kind of keeps the fire lit, especially going back to those super special moments.
Dude, so cool. That's it, man. Man, we might have to do a separate podcast about some of your outdoor adventure filming too, because I want to explore more about the Yukon and stuff like that. That's really cool. But yeah, can you share a little bit about how your photography and your videography journey started, or the background with that? And then how did you get so, especially with photos, man? I, Photos is something that I struggle with a little bit. So I guess kind of two questions. How did your background with videography and photography start? And then how did you get so damn good with photos?
um, so I'll keep a long story short. It's I guess probably was like 2016, 17. I used to kind of be the too cool for school kid and used to more or less poke fun at the nerd with a camera on the riverbanks. And I was guiding for a lodge that wanted to implement a photography program to teach their, higher echelon clients that bring these $10,000 cameras that are shooting in auto and stuff. They bring them to the lodge and they don't know how to use them. So the lodge, with a little forethought, was like, well, if they have better pictures, that makes us look better, as a lodge. So they wanted to implement this photography program, but no one really knew how to teach it. And I might have had like 2,000 Instagram followers. So they more or less forced me against my will into a workshop. And I didn't want to do it, but it was taught by Jay Dickman, who is one of like the most iconic rock and roll photographers and Nat Geo photographers who took like all the cool Jimi Hendrix and Stones pictures. And I've always kind of been a classic rock guy. And so against my will, I took this Nat Geo workshop with Jay, and it was like 10 days or 2 weeks, and it changed the course of my life. And
Oh, wow.
I,
2 weeks. Okay.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of cool when, to have such a defining moment that I can look back on and be like, that class changed the course of my life uh, drastically. And I went and bought a camera right after that, and just I was the nerd on the river. And being an outdoorsman around here, especially in Southwest Montana, as most of you know how beautiful it is, I just never ran out of opportunity, whether it was fly fishing with buddies or another hunt or a hike or a side by side trip into the mountains or whatever it may be, and then teaching on top of that because I had to teach these clients how to use the cameras at this workshop at the lodge. I think I just submersed myself so much in it along with teaching, so I learned very quickly. Um, it just really helped me level up my game pretty
Yeah.
quick, I think.
Yeah.
I and then yeah, just being something I became so passionate about, and it almost became my excuse to go nonstop. Whether at the time I more or less had the 9 to 5 guiding, but like I could take pictures at work, I could teach at work, I would get off work and go float again. So I never didn't have the camera with me. Um, yeah, it just allowed me to progress pretty fast, I guess you could say, in
Dude,
that realm.
that is what's your favorite niche to photograph? Is it hunting, hiking, fishing, camping? Do you have a favorite one?
I would I would say I've I fell in love with hunting photography
Yeah.
uh, for a few different reasons. I guess the main one would be that in 2024 now, especially every year, it seems to get uh, more crucial. But to just be able to have a little bit of control over the narrative when it comes to hunting in such a sensitive time, and kind of steer the narrative away from the redneck that with the gripping grins, and to be able to document the entire story with a little bit, I feel a responsibility to kind of steer the narrative in the best possible way to just keep my favorite thing around. It's kind of a tough time for hunting. There's a lot of people that don't like it anymore. So, uh,
Yeah.
hunting photography is definitely my favorite due to that.
So you feel like you can portray it in a good light, and that's kind of on your responsibility to make sure that you keep hunting the way it is now and doesn't essentially get damaged anymore from a lot of those kill shot videos and photos and things like that.
Yep, absolutely. Just kind of, I don't know, taking it on myself and in the little role I get to play in that scheme. But yeah, being able to control the narrative, I think it's a super important thing that people need to be, cognizant of to portray all that in a good light to especially non-hunters. And with social media, as one wrong post, which is the one that's going to go viral, it seems like that's
Yeah.
the one that gets
Yeah.
shipped out to a million people, and it makes the outdoorsman, a lot of us, look pretty bad. It can.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting too is I've been recently getting back into hunting, and so I've been obviously going to YouTube is my favorite place to go look for stuff like that, right? And I gotta say, every time I see a grip and grin thumbnail, YouTube thumbnail, I automatically don't even want to watch it for some reason. And I don't know if it's because there's typically, if you click that video, there is no story with it or what it is. I think your photos, the photo work that you do, and we were just talking about one of your YouTube thumbnails before this, but those are the types of photos that if I saw that on a YouTube thumbnail, I'll be like, oh, this guy, I guarantee you is going to tell a story and this is going to be great. It's not just going to be about the harvest and how big the buck is or whatever. It's actually going to be here were the struggles, here were the obstacles, here's how I overcame it, that type of thing, And so I think you're doing a great job, man. So like I said, people
I
that are
appreciate
listening,
it.
you should go follow him. So now, how did you end up getting into UGC or user generated content then?
Yeah, I was trying to think of, kind of the exact moment. I think it was I heard you on a podcast, and was it the Rich Outdoors podcast? I
Yeah,
think
man.
that's how
He
I.
actually that's so funny because he actually just messaged me today about the watch I was wearing, and I haven't talked to him for a few months, but that's so funny. Yeah, but yeah, I was definitely on that. Yep.
Yeah, and before that, I guess I never would have called it UGC content. I guess that to me is a relatively new term after listening to your podcast. But
Yep.
I've had brands reach out, or I've reached out to brands to kind of do the gear for content thing, whether it be a rod company or something like that in the outdoor space. For the last few years. But now, after hearing you on the podcast and kind of putting a label on what I was doing, it's yeah, definitely allowed me to level up for sure.
Yeah. So, how many brands do you feel like you've done UGC work with in the last 2 years? Do you feel like
Oh, probably 15 to 20, somewhere in that ballpark.
perfect? And how?
Some are, sorry, go ahead.
Oop, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. You got it.
Some are more of a long-term partnership where I'll be on like a retainer for 8 months or 6 months or something. And
Okay.
some of the brands are kind of just a, one video and done situation.
Exactly. Yeah, I always say in the academy, right? The gold standard is to try and get on retainer with that one brand. And now you know that you have that,
Hmm.
you know what content you need to create every single month, as opposed to, okay, I need to go fishing out for these brands to go find more brands to create content for. And I don't know how they work I don't know their contacts and I don't have the rapport with them and type of thing. And so yeah, retainers awesome. Now, how would you juxtapose or how would you what would you say the difference is between building a brand on Instagram and getting paid versus doing UGC for a brand? What are like the main differences that you've seen or struggles between each, or which one are you prioritizing,
Oh,
I guess? Yeah.
I'm still trying to build my personal brand just to kind of elevate my YouTube game and stuff. I think the big difference is just your audience size doesn't really come into play as much with the UGC stuff. You can work with some pretty big brands with,
Right.
you know, a few hundred followers. You don't really need any audience, just because they're going to be sharing that content. Versus my personal brand stuff, the follower size with the UGC doesn't really seem to come into play. So you can still land some pretty, lucrative jobs with some bigger companies, and they can just take that content rather than relying on your analytics to kind of base what they would pay you or something, or your following, like you would have to with a personal brand, where I feel like the numbers matter a fair bit more. You know, trying Patagonia or something isn't really going to want to deal with someone with 500 followers and rely on those 500 followers to bring them business. So I think UGC has a little bit less barrier to entry. Yeah, it's definitely the way if you want to start making money in this realm, shooting the same content that you're probably already shooting. I think UGC is
Right.
definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, you're already doing it. You're using the products anyways. It's like, why not just reach out to these brands that need competent creators and gauge their interest.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, so we're talking about you're part of the Outdoor Creator Academy. Is there any strategies or tips from the course that you were like that really helps you with your UGC game in terms of either maybe making the videos, reaching out to brands, or yeah, just any kind of general things like that that you found very helpful?
There's a lot. Some of the ones I had written down or I've taken notes on is just really being consistent and building, a routine around, we'll call it brand engagement. I think that's helped me kind of leverage my, presence on social media with these brands a little bit by sharing their posts, commenting, liking,
Mm,
even past, just simple likes, but like really engaging with these brands and getting on their radar. And it gives you a leg to stand on when you slide into their DMs with a pitch for a product or something. I think that was super helpful. Um, and I feel like just being consistent on social media in itself. Um, I forget the rule if it's Gary Vee or something, but you have like, you give out so much content before you ask your audience of anything. And I feel like that's another super important thing I kind of picked up is just building, authentic trust with your personal audience and with these brands. I think that goes a long ways, and definitely something you touched on in the academy.
yeah.
And I feel like that really, really helped me out along the way. I could keep going if you want. I
Yeah,
got
I mean,
a bunch of strategies.
well, that's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, so yeah, it's the jab, jab, right hook that
Yeah,
Gary talked
that's what
about,
it was.
right? Yep. And
Yeah.
so it's basically give, 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 ask from your audience and types of thing. And it sounds like, and this is what I always encourage in the academy. A lot of UGC people will go all in on UGC. That's good, but you still want to build your brand in the background. And so it seems like you've picked up strategies for each because the first one was you were talking about, hey, this is how you engage with, and I like how your analogy of a foot to stand on uh, with the brands in order to build rapport and then sneak into their DMs to ask if they could do a partnership. But then you were also talking about, jab, 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 right hook, especially when you're talking about things like building your brand. So it sounds like you're building both of them at the same time.
Yeah, that's really what I've been striving to do. Just trying to find different avenues to kind of leverage my presence in time in the outdoors and trying to turn this thing into, an income generating passion of mine, more or less. Being able
Yeah.
to still work on building the brand while I'm monetizing it in another avenue. I feel like they just go hand in hand. And I feel like it really allows me to make the most out of, you know, bashing content, which is another thing that you touched on. So I can go out there and crank out a ton of photos or some short form video on a river for myself to kind of leverage what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
then I can also shoot for a brand while I'm out there. So you're kind of double dipping and making the most of both worlds.
God, isn't that the best? I
Yeah.
feel so good when I do that, man, where you're so efficient, like, you're having the experience, you're also kind of working at the same time, and now you're getting content for brands, you feel like you're getting paid, and then you can use that content, who knows, a year later, 2 years later for some kinda type of other video, as long as you're storing stuff. I mean, it's such a win-win.
No, yeah, absolutely. I just got back from Alaska this last week, and it was exactly all of that. Like I filmed a YouTube video for myself. I shot a ton of wildlife stuff, and then I also was doing some UGC stuff, and then
Yeah.
just some different brand work while I was up there, and it paid for my whole trip. Um, yeah, it was just a win-win-win all the way around. That's the way
Yeah.
that I think everyone should try to strive to get, kind of in that situation. It just makes everything feel like way more productive when you're out there, and like you said, you get to enjoy the experience too. So
Yeah.
it's a win all the way around.
Dude, that's awesome. It's like you have a you could sit there working on that content for the next couple months.
And that's probably what I'm gonna be doing.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
just one trip. So, yeah, so useful. That's awesome, man. So, I guess what other what advice would you give someone considering if they wanted to consider enrolling in the academy and they wanted to have a similar success that you've gotten and you're continuing to get right now?
It, I think consistency would be probably one of the biggest
Mhm.
things I feel like that helped me out, whether that be with building brands or, building rapport with, or excuse me, building your online brand and then also building rapport with other brands. You might get 9 no's for the one yes out of 10 people you reach out to. I think just by not getting bogged down kind of in the analytics and just still showing up authentically every day,
Yeah.
it's going to go a long way, especially, with your mental health, because it is pretty easy and defeating when you might reach out to, 20 brands and you might not get one yes, but 21st brand that might, make your month. So
Yeah.
I think just being authentically persistent, um, that's probably the biggest, thing I think that brings success in this realm for sure.
I love that. Now, just I gotta wrap it up because I gotta go take my GF to her thing, but would love for you to plug your YouTube channel and your Instagram for anybody that's following on here right now.
Yeah. So my YouTube is Hunt Fish Create, and I'm trying to build a platform to teach on the subject of like hunting and fishing videography or content creation. Um, so that's coming down the pipe. I haven't had time to get caught up on editing, so I don't have too many episodes yet. But something I'm really working on, and want to provide a lot of value there. And then my Instagram is Drew Baker Photo.
Awesome. Like I said, guys, go follow him. Dude, we should talk offline, but I would like to bring a mini course of your photography into our course and
Yeah, I would
somehow,
love to do something like that.
dude, I think that would be number 1, I wanna take it. Because, like I said, I'm not that good with photography. I would love to learn from it, and I think it would be super valuable for our guys, and then, then we could figure out how to split the proceeds on that.
Yeah,
I think that would be
definitely down with that. That'd be
dude,
cool.
we need to we need to do some more talking after
Yeah,
this,
for sure, dude.
yeah, man. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. I learned a lot. I didn't know all that about your background. Super, super interesting, and man, I'm looking forward to maybe doing a collab on that or learning from your photography stuff. And I encourage everybody that's listening, go follow Drew. He gives I'm a lot about hiking and backpacking. He's got a lot of the wildlife, fishing, and hunting type stuff. So if you guys are into that, go follow him. So awesome.
Go take the academy, guys. It was a game changer for me, and it just, yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. So can't recommend it enough.